Hi guys, my name is Christine and I'm a dating, relationship and personal development coach, and today I'm talking about how to ask a woman for intimacy. So this isn't about like verbally asking a woman for intimacy, because that can sometimes be not very effective, okay? I think it's because it makes you sort of look like you're begging. I guess it can sometimes depend on the way that you word it, but often it's not a very attractive thing to just go up to your girlfriend or your wife and just be like, can we have intimacy? Okay. Because there needs to be a build up, basically, because she's going to say no. If you just go up to her and ask her flat out like that, she's probably not already in the mood, so it's just probably not going to happen, right? So what you need to do then is something very differently, okay? So you never need to ask for it, because when it comes to intimacy should be a spontaneous thing. It's like if you think about any first kisses you've had with a woman, more than likely you didn't ask her for the kiss. Yeah, more than likely you two were just alone, and the moment was just building up, and then it happened. It happened spontaneously. Okay, so it's all about then facilitating and creating those spontaneous moments. Okay, now of course, yeah, when you get into like if you get married and you've got kids, sometimes you do need to schedule things in if your life is extremely busy. So yeah, you arrange date nights, maybe you do actually schedule intimacy and things like that. But when it comes down to it, okay, it should still be a rather spontaneous act, okay, even though you may have scheduled it in, right? Okay, so you never go up and be like, okay, should we go do it now, right? You don't have to do that. It's way better if you can actually build up the intimacy by, again, like going out on a date, having a laugh, having a good time, getting her to laugh, flirting with each other, and then it's more likely to happen more spontaneously, and you're building it up. You're building up the intimacy, and you're not just going straight in there, basically, right? So the best way to ask a woman for intimacy is to think back on the times when it was more spontaneous between you two, because more than likely it could be that you two have been dating for a while, you could be in a relationship, you could be married, and think back on when the intimacy was more spontaneous and what kind of things were you guys doing, because more than likely you were dating each other a lot. You would go out and do different activities. It may not have cost a lot of money, but you might have just been something simple like going for a hike. I mean, that's one of the ways that me and my wife dated each other. We would just go out for walks and talk and stuff like that. So you don't have to spend a lot of money, right, in order to do this, because I know the economy is pretty bad right now. So there are creative ways on how you can create dates, because it's all about with women. A lot of the time it's about connection and sharing, shared experiences and talking and stuff like that. And when you get to the point where you're having great conversation and you're having a laugh, it's much more easier than to be flirty and to build the anticipation. Okay, so when you are with each other and you're going out on a date, and you got to think about how you were before, and more than likely as well, if you had first started dating each other, your hands are all over each other. So that's where you got to go back to. You've got to go back to that time when you were first dating each other, and you were touching each other everywhere, and you were just in each other's arms. You were all entangled with each other all the time. And just think about that. Just contemplate that and visualize that. Visualize that time when you first started dating, because one of the things that can make a relationship go a bit stale when it comes to romance and intimacy is if you after you've discovered what both of you like, you get into sort of like a routine. You get into the routine of the way that you guys usually perform intimacy, and that can sometimes get a bit dull and a bit boring and a bit more routine. So what you got to do is you got to add a bit more variety to it, a bit more novelty, something a bit different. Okay. And one of the best ways that you can do that is to think back on how you two used to be together when you first started dating each other. Okay, so that's one way. Okay, so going back to how you guys used to date each other. So if you do then want to ask a woman for intimacy, okay, because like I said, it could be that you guys do need to schedule it in. Okay, so the best thing to do then is to, instead of asking for intimacy, instead of, which, you could add it in as well. I'm not saying you should never be like, you should never express your wants and your needs. Of course not. You should be able to do that. But you've also got to pick your moments too. You got to think about, is this the right time to actually talk about this? But also, you got to talk about this, your guys' schedule of when you guys can have a date night, when you guys, that's the best thing to ask for, okay? Because usually if you think about a date, if you think about a romantic evening, when you're having a date with each other, it kind of adds into that, right? It's that sort of a part of it. Intimacy is a part of that dating sort of like experience. So you ask her what her availability is, what her schedule's like, so you can schedule in a day where you can have a date night, where you can have that. Okay, maybe you have to get a babysitter, all these kinds of things in order to facilitate that happening, okay? So that's a better thing to ask, okay? And of course you can slip it in there as well, and say, pun intended, right? You can ask, as well, like, how about we have a date night, and we can have sex later on as well. How about we do that? We can do that. What would you like to, well, you can ask her what she would like to do. Perhaps you've got some things in mind, like how about we go to the cinema or something like that. How about we go out for dinner? Is there any places you'd like to go to? Just putting that out there. It's always better though to be a leader and just to like arrange things yourself, but it could be that maybe she would prefer something different. So you can offer the suggestion, but she may change her mind about it. But it's just basically, finding those times to fit it in and to do that. But as you can see, you don't need to just go up to her and be like, can we have sex in 5 minutes? It's not like that. It's not about that. It's about having that full intimacy experience, because more than likely that's what she wants anyway. She doesn't want to just, have sex. She might do sometimes, but more likely than not, it's probably she wants to hang out with you as well and spend time with you and talk to you. She doesn't just want to just go straight to have sex and that's it, and then you can go back to living your lives, right? It's more than likely than not, she wants to have the full experience with you so she can spend time with you as well, because that's how you bond. I mean, intimacy is one way to bond with someone, but also spending time with them is another way to bond. And that's just how women are, okay? Most of the time. They like to have time together as well. So that's another way that you can facilitate that and make that happen. Okay. And it might be as well, if you two having a really good day and things are not that stressful, it could be that you could just ask for it and then it happens. Okay. But again, you want to try and build it up. You don't want to just, go right in there basically, right? You have to try and like flirt with her and, and basically get that, because you want it to be spontaneous. You don't want it to be just like this routine thing. It's way better when intimacy and making out and things like that is spontaneous. So the best thing to do is just to start with the flirty behavior. Just start flirting with her. If she's your wife or girlfriend, then you should know how to flirt with her and talk to her in that way. And just start flirting with her. Maybe you give her lots of hugs and cuddles and tickles and stuff like that. And it's just warming her up to the act of intimacy, okay? And it's just one of those, because sometimes, like I said, like when you guys have been together for a long time, sometimes things can become routine. Like, let's say you always have sex on a Sunday or something like that, or a Saturday night, and it's just one of those things, right? Because you've got into the routine of it. And because you've got into the routine of it, it sort of takes the romance out of it. Okay, and this is what women sometimes get a bit sad about, because they feel like, oh, we just have sex, we don't date anymore, we don't have long talks anymore. We used to talk right into the early hours of the morning, things like that, and they miss these kinds of moments where you used to connect and bond before and after intimacy. And sometimes women, they don't just see intimacy as the sexual act, they see it as everything under that, like the talking, the getting to know each other, the foreplay, the going out and spending time with each other. It's all part of this. They lump it all within the same category. They don't take sections out of it, like sex, for example, and just do that. Most of the time they want that full experience. But there's many ways they can facilitate that. Just be flirty with her. If you feel like you're in the mood that day, then be flirty with her. Try and build the anticipation like how you used to when you first started dating each other. Because the way that you got your partner, the way that you got your girlfriend, is how you keep your girlfriend. And that's also how you keep the magic alive long term. And I have a section in my book all about this. and how you can keep the magic alive long term, so you never have lack of intimacy in that relationship. Okay, so go to www.christinelovers.com and you can read this book entirely for free by going to the menu on the website and then clicking on the book, and it'll take you straight there. And this book has, and don't just look at the relationship sections either. Read the whole thing, because one of the reasons why a woman may lose her attraction in you and may not want to date you as much anymore is because you're not doing the attraction skills, okay, on keeping her attracted to you. So read the whole thing, but there is a book on there is a chapter in there about how to keep the magic alive long term, so you can keep your girlfriend and wife into you and want to have sex with you more regularly. Okay, so if you like coaching with me though, and you feel like you need help with a specific situation, then please go to www.christinelovers.com and click on whichever coaching option works best for you at this current time, and I shall talk to you again very soon. Goodbye.